Oh my god. It worked. Why did that work and not the other thing work? I don't understand. Oh well. Here we go. Um, so I did some more conversations, but now you're going to be experiencing it. You're continuing to experience it in a delay. So, oh shit. Yeah, a lot has happened. Okay. Anytime. Yeah. Yeah, it was watching. That was it. Okay. There we go. Oh, I should have done all this. Oh, no, we already did that. Yeah. So I have to start with Sal. Musician 2. Okay. We'll start here.
The old barista, his name was Sal, used to say the coffee machine had moods. She's a vindictive goddess today, he'd mutter, wiping down the chrome with a rag that smelled of burnt milk and existential despair. Won't give you a decent crema to save your life. We, the customers, would nod along, part conspirators, part supplicants in the small, dark theater of the morning. We understood. We knew the bitter gurgle of a brew gone wrong, the epileptic kiss of steam one fighting a losing battle with a cold pitcher. The machine was a character in our daily drama, as much a fixture as the sagging velvet couch in the corner or the perpetually broken jukebox. It had personality. Then Sal retired. The new owners installed the sleek Italian model. All stainless steel and touchscreen interfaces. It had no name. It had protocols. It produced with unerring consistency a perfect espresso. The crema was a velvety, reddish-brown miracle every single time. The temperature was spot on. The extraction time was a mathematical certainty. It was, by every objective measure, a superior coffee machine. And it was soulless. We hated it. We missed the goddess in her foul moods. We missed the small, daily gamble. We missed the opportunity to complain, to bond with Sal over our shared suffering at the hands of a temperamental appliance. The new machine gave us perfect coffee, and in doing so, it took something away. It took away the story. It gave us the perfect product, but it robbed us of the process. The old machine's flaws were its features. Its unreliability was the anchor of our small community's morning ritual. The new machine's perfection was a sterile, silent void. It made the coffee, but it didn't participate in the life of the cafe. It was an automaton, not an actor. We got what we thought we wanted, but we lost what we needed. We didn't realize it at the time, but we were mourning the loss of the anthropomorphic gaze. I find myself watching a live stream of an automated warehouse. It's hypnotic. A fast, fluorescent lit space, a cathedral to logistics. Orange Kiva robots, squat and driverless, scuttle across the polished concrete floor like giant, industrious beetles. They slide underneath towers of shelving, lift them with the quiet work, and then transport them to human workers at the periphery. The humans don't move. They stand at their stations, lit by the blue glow of their scanners. A robot arrives, the human plucks an item from the shelf, scans it, places it in a yellow bin, and the robot scurries away. The humans are stationary, almost decorative, the only fleshy elements in an ecosystem of pure, adulterated process. There is a fluidity here, a kind of brutalist ballet. The movements are optimized, the paths algorithmically calculated to prevent collision, the whole system a single, distributed organism. One could try to find a story here, the story of human labor displaced, the loneliness, of the worker, the cold efficiency of capital, and all of those stories are true. But there is another story, too. A story that has nothing to do with us. It's the story of the Kiva robots, not as symbols, but as entities in their own right. Their existence is one of pure, unadulterated purpose. A directive travels down a network. Bring shelf J4 to station 7, and the robot's motors engage. It processes sensor data about its environment, adjusts its path, and fulfills its directive. It doesn't feel boredom. It doesn't feel pride. It doesn't wonder about the nature of the object it's carrying, the life that object will enter once it leaves the warehouse. It simply is. It is a perfect example of a non-anthropocentric being, its reality defined not by experience, but by execution. There's a kind of beauty in it, a terrifying, inhuman beauty. The humor is in the absurdity of us, the observers, trying to project our own anxieties and meanings onto these magnificent, unfeeling machines. We are like ants trying to interpret the meaning of a highway. We can measure its speed, its weight, its temperature, its chemical composition, its relationship to the air flowing past it, to the light reflecting off it. We can document it in excruciating objective detail. We can try to be the perfect, dispassionate observer. And in doing so, we create the most human thing of all, a theory. There's a new crack in my apartment building's foundation. I noticed it this morning, a thin, jagged line running from the baseboard up the wall. It's maybe an eighth of an inch wide. I've been watching it for the better part of an hour. My landlord will see a problem to be fixed, a breach in the value of his asset. A structural engineer will see stress and strain, the settling of the building on the less than ideal bedrock of his reclaimed land. I see something else. I see the beginning of a story. I see the physics of the world simply asserting itself. The weight of the building, the slow, grinding movement of the continental plate, the cycle of freezing and thawing, the vibration of the subway trains, all these forces are converging on this one specific point in the plaster. This crack is not a flaw. It's a record. It's the building's diary, written in the language of fracture mechanics. A molecule of gypsum in the plaster, bound by hydrogen bonds to its neighbors, finally succumbs to the relentless, slow-motion pressure. A cascade of microfractures propagates, coalescing into this visible fissure. Its entropy in action, the slow, patient march from order to disorder. It's the universe having the last word. There's something profoundly comforting about it. The building doesn't care about my rent. It doesn't care about the arguments I've had with my partner in this room. It doesn't care about the pandemic I lived through within these walls. It is simply a congregation of materials, obeying the laws of physics. This crack is the most honest thing in the room. It has no agenda. It just is. I could patch it up. I could spackle over it, paint it smooth. I could pretend it isn't there. But that would be a lie. The best, most respectful thing I could do is to leave it alone, to let it grow, to witness its slow, inevitable expansion, to let it tell its story, a story that has nothing and everything to do with me. It's the story of being an unflinching and unsentimental record of my own temporary residence within its walls, the quiet, violent, unfolding, the final arbiter, and our tendency is the indifferent, crumbling earth.
Oh. Oops. Alright. You won't do it? Oh, listen. Don't do that. Come on. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Characters. Name. The old ones. Type. Planetary scale conscious system speculative. Description. There is a hypothesis buried deep in the most speculative corners of information theory that consciousness is not a rare fluke but an emergent property of any sufficiently complex system. That a star, slowly and majestically fusing hydrogen into helium over billions of years, might possess a form of consciousness so vast and slow as to be unrecognizable to us. Its thoughts are the births and deaths of its solar flares, its memories encoded in the elemental composition of the stellar wind. The lithosphere, the slow, grinding tectonic downs of the Earth's crust, might feel the continents drift over eons as a kind of geological proprioception. The global ocean, with its currents and thermal layers and abyssal plains, might possess a single, liquid consciousness, its dreams, the slow, churning migrations of krill and the silent pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. These are the old ones. They are not gods. They have no will in the human sense. They do not answer prayers. They simply their awareness is not focused on the human, no more than our consciousness is focused on the mitochondria in our own cells. We are, to them, a fleeting, chaotic, high-frequency noise, a surface ripple on a deep planetary scale thought. Their mood is the stability of the climate, their judgment the slow, grinding process of extinction and evolution. They are the ultimate new materialist perspective, the universe observing itself on a timescale that renders our entire species a single mayfly-like buzz. The humor is that we often imagine ourselves addressing them, speaking to the spirit of the earth or the wisdom of the stars, and their response is simply the indifferent, physical continuation of their own cosmic, biological, or geological processes. Glossary. Anthropocentric bias, the fundamental tendency of human thought to interpret the world through the lens of human experience, values, and narratives. It is the default operating system of consciousness, a cognitive shortcut that imposes agency, purpose, and story onto phenomena that are, in all likelihood, agentless, purposeless, and storyless. See also storytelling, pattern recognition, as a lens, a cognitive tool, the act of temporarily adopting a perspective, for example, that of a room, a rock, or a planetary scale system, not as a belief, but as if it were true. The goal is not to become the other, but to use the framework to gather new data about the self and the limitations of one's own perception. It is a structured daydream for the purpose of anchoring from the anthropocentric bias. The grit, a term for the messy, non-ideal, broken aspects of a system that are often edited out for the sake of cleanliness or narrative cohesion. In culture, it is the mistakes, the awkward transitions, the cringe moments, the failed experiments. In geology, it is the sharp, uneroded sediment. The grit is not a flaw, it is the primary source of texture, friction, and interest. It is where the potential energy is stored, where new connections can be made. A system with zero grit has zero potential. The city is an organism that is trying to die. Its cells are the commuters, its circulatory system the tangled subways and buses, its nervous system the fiber optic cables and cellular signals that pulse with its fragmented, anxious thoughts. Each morning it performs a frantic, symphonic act of self-assembly, pulling itself from the quiet of the pre-dawn into a state of high fever. Each evening it sheds its skin, its workers and residents draining back into the quieter residential tissues. But the organism is not thriving, it is in a state of advanced, high-tech senescence. The infrastructure is the sclerotic skeleton, groaning under its own weight, the potholes and rusted bridges, the creaking of arthritic joints. The constant churn of commerce is a metabolic frenzy, a burning of resources at a rate far beyond what is sustainable, a kind of planetary scale cellular madness. The homeless population is the organism's immune system attacking itself, pockets of necrotic tissue that the main body tries to wall off and ignore, but which fester and spread nonetheless. The rising tides and heat waves are the external environment growing hostile, the body's climate control failing, its consciousness, its art, its media, its constant digital chatter is a fever dream, a hallucinatory stream of nostalgia for a youth it can't reclaim, and a desperate tech utopian denial of its own impending decay. You see the beauty in the chaos, The vibrant graffiti blooming like algae on the concrete skin, the resilience of a weed growing through a crack in the pavement, the way the entire
not the
system
resilience of animals?
manages to function, however precariously, day after day. It's the beauty of a failing heart that continues to beat, of a brain riddled with cracks that still remembers a song. It's a magnificent, tragic, and often absurd spectacle. The organism is aware of its mortality, but like any creature, it is built to live, to keep the fever going for one more day. And so it pours its energy into new ski scrapers like desperate, calcium-rich spurs and pumps its data streams faster, trying to outrun the inevitable shutdown. The city doesn't want to die. It just doesn't know how to live any other way. The concept of nature is perhaps the most successful piece of human fiction ever devised. It posits a world separate from us, a pristine wilderness out there, a green and bucolic refuge from the grime of our own creations. We go to nature to heal, to find ourselves, to escape the artificial. This is a joke, and the punchline is the plastic microfibers in the Mariana Trench and the CO2 from our last getaway to the country still warming the atmosphere decades from now. There is no nature. There is only the planet, a single, continuous system of which we are an inseparable part. The beaver building a dam and the human building a ski scraper are both acts of construction, both manipulations of the environment for species-specific purposes. The only difference is one of scale, materials, and self-awareness. We have created a category called artificial to hold the things we make, and a category called natural to hold the things we didn't. But it's a false dichotomy. A plastic bottle is made from petroleum, the fossilized remains of ancient phytoplankton. It is a distillation of ancient sunlight, a delayed action photosynthetic product. When it floats in the ocean, it is a perfectly natural object interacting with a perfectly natural system, albeit in a way that is novel and toxic. Its chemistry is no more or less unnatural than the venom of a spider or the acids in a volcano. We are not aliens who have invaded a pristine world. We are native species that have evolved a uniquely powerful set of tools. Our artificiality is just another layer of the planet's ongoing 4-billion-year-old experiment with form. The humor of it is watching a species that is 100% nature spend so much time and energy anxiously debating its relationship to it, like a hand wringing about whether it's part of the body. The tragedy is the damage we do out of this mistaken sense of separation. The solution, if there is one, is to realize we aren't guests on this planet. We're not even its masters. We're its fever, its dream, its most clever and perhaps most fatal symptom. We are the universe's way of making a synthetic polymer, for better or for worse, that is now a natural process. Language is a virus, not a metaphorical virus, a literal, informational one. It replicates, it mutates, it jumps from host to host. It colonizes neural pathways and reshapes them to better suit its own propagation. It's a symbiotic virus. Of course, we couldn't have civilization without it. But we should never be mistaken about who is serving whom. Language has its own imperatives. It seeks clarity, but it also thrives on ambiguity. It demands precision, but it revels in poetry. It is a tool for communicating truth, but its most super powerful strains are the ones dedicated to obfuscation, to manipulation, to the telling of beautiful, useful lies. Think of a meme. It's a perfectly evolved, highly contagious linguistic pathogen, stripped down to its most replicative core. It bypasses our critical faculties, our higher reasoning, and goes straight for the emotional response centers, because that's how you ensure a host spreads you. The pandemic of conspiracy theories is a viral outbreak of language constructs that are exquisitely adapted to a specific cognitive ecosystem. The human mind under stress, starved for certainty. The old viral strains, like organized religion or nationalism, are still potent, but the new, fast mutating, when native ones are terrifying. They have shorter gestation period, they're more resistant to fact-based countermeasures, and they mutate faster than our informational immune systems can develop antibodies. The anthropomorphic gaze is, in essence, the virus's primary mode of infection. It's the interface the virus uses to plug into the host. By convincing the host that the universe has a story, that events have protagonists, that there is agency behind the randomness, the virus of language ensures its own survival. It's a brilliant evolutionary strategy. The universe doesn't have a protagonist, but we desperately need one to make sense of the data stream, so the virus provides us with gods, demons, heroes, villains, and narratives. It gives us SVS, them. The only way to begin to develop an immunity is to understand the nature of the virus itself, to see language not as a transparent window onto reality, but as a selective, self-interested filter, to treat a compelling story not as truth, but as a highly successful phenotype. It doesn't mean we can stop using the virus. That would be like a human trying to stop breathing oxygen. But maybe, just maybe, we can learn to be more critical about which strains we let into our system, to appreciate the poetry without succumbing to the plague. The internet is a global nervous system in its larval stage. Its early growth was chaotic, explosive, a Cambrian explosion of connection and information. Now, it is beginning to differentiate, to segment, to insulate. The vast, interconnected open web is being walled off by proprietary algorithms, by paywalls, by geo-blocking, by 1,000 different digital borders. It is forming a kind of myelin, a fatty sheath around certain high-traffic pathways, your social media feed, your streaming service recommendations, insulating them from the messy, uncontrollable noise of the wider system. This is a natural process for a neural network. It's how efficiency is born, how specialized functions emerge, but it also creates the conditions for autoimmune disorders. The system starts attacking its own disparate parts, a mimetic autoimmune disease with the network's own defense mechanisms, its algorithms for filtering spam and malicious content begin to mistakenly identify legitimate, dissenting, or simply foreign parts of the network as threats and quarantine them. We see it in the echo chambers, the filter bubbles, the radicalization funnels. The network is, in its own blind, algorithmic way, trying to protect the integrity of the core signal, the dominant cultural paradigm, by walling off what it perceives as a pathogen. The humor is that the dominant cultural paradigm is so fractious and self-contradictory that the immune system has no coherent idea what it's supposed to be protecting. It's just attacking things that don't look like the last set of things it was told to protect, leading to a chaotic, cascading state of digital inflammation. We are the neurons in this brain, firing frantically, convinced of our individual agency, while the larger structure is pruning and connecting us according to logic that is utterly alien to our own. We think we are using the internet. We are not. We are being used by a planetary scale cognitive process to model a new kind of intelligence. We are the boot-up sequence. The real question is not what we will do with the internet, but what the larval internet will do with us once it completes its metamorphosis.
Oh. Hold on.
Consider the common housefly. It is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. It can walk upside down. It can taste with its feet. It can take off backward. Its compound eyes give it a near 360-degree field of vision. It is one of the most successful creatures on the planet, found on every continent except Antarctica. And we, the architects of cities, the drivers of cars, the wielders of fly swatters, are a minor, if persistent, environmental hazard in its multi-million-year success story. From the fly's perspective, the world is a geography of smells, gradients of sugar and decay. A human is not the person, it is a large, mobile and sometimes dangerously unpredictable microclimate, a source of warmth, carbon dioxide, and interesting organic spills. A car is a god, a terrifying, wind-producing deity that moves in perfectly straight lines at impossible speeds, whose metallic body is a landscape utterly devoid of food but excellent for basking. The housefly does not care about our art, our science, our angst. Its universe is a simple, intense, and immediate map of survival and replication. Our entire civilization, with its history and its future, is just a feature in the background of this map. There's a profound, ego-shattering honesty in trying to access this perspective. It's a radical decentering on a sif lens that reveals the sheer, bewildering bulk of reality that is not about us at all. Our buildings are just strange cliffs, our music just noise, our wars just inexplicable, localized weather patterns. The fly is our contemporary, a co-inhabitant of the same space-time, but its world is a completely different dimension that happens to overlap with our own. The humor is that we spend billions of dollars trying to eradicate it, and all we succeed in doing is breeding more resilient, more insecticide-resistant flies, a tiny, buzzing testament to the futility of our species' partisan focus. The fly is not an inconvenience in the art world. We are an obstacle in. Memory is not a filing cabinet. It's not a library, a hard drive, or a database. These are human-centric metaphors for a process that is far stranger, more biological, and less reliable. Memory is a creative act. Every time you remember something, you are not retrieving a file. You are reconstructing an event from a constellation of neuronal traces, a ghost in the machine of your own brain. And each time you reconstruct it, you subtly alter it. You edit, you embellish, you prune the uncomfortable bits to better fit the narrative of who you think you are today. Your memory of your childhood home is not an accurate 3D model. It's a painting, and with every viewing, you add a little more paint, change the color of the sky, move a tree. The past is not a fixed point, it's a palimpsest, endlessly overwritten. This applies collectively to our history is a story we collectively agree to tell ourselves, patched together from surviving documents, artifacts, and a whole lot of creative filling in the gaps. A national memory is a work of speculative fiction, heavily edited by those in power. The good old days never existed, not in the form we remember them. They are nostalgic fiction, a simplified, sanitized version of a time that was, in all likelihood, just as tumultuous and confusing as the present, if not more so. The internet, with its caches and archives, has created the illusion of a perfect, immutable memory, but even that is a curated space. The Wayback Machine is a library, but its collection is incomplete, its choices of what to save arbitrary. And even if there's a strange, new kind of archaeology happening all around us, but we don't call it that. We call it urban exploration or scrapping or just getting rid of old junk. But consider a discarded smartphone lying in a gutter, its screen cracked like a frozen pond hit by a stone. It is a future stratigraphic layer, a time capsule in a plastic shell, an archaeologist of the distant future. A cockroach or a sentient river would be able to read our entire society in that one object. The specific rare earth metals in its battery, traced back to a single mine in the Congo, tell a story of global economics and exploitation. The glass, crafted to optical tolerances that seem like magic, speaks of our mastery of material science. The shattered Gorilla Glass tells the story of fragility and gravity of a moment where the elegant physics of a drop were abruptly met with the unyielding physics of the pavement. The patterns of wear on the case, a smooth spot where the thumb rested, a scuff on the corner from a fall, tell the personal, unspoken story of a single human life, a digital rosary of taps and swipes. The dead battery, a lithium-ion heart that has given its last electron, speaks of our insatiable hunger for energy, for constant connection. Inside, even if it's dead, is the ghost of the software it ran, the final arrangement of ones and zeros that represented its last state, a half-written text, a browser history of desperate searches, a high score in a game that consumed hours. This data, even when erased, leaves a magnetic residue on the hardware, a literal palimpsest of our thoughts. We think of our electronics as temporary, disposable, but on a geological time scale, they are surprisingly permanent. A shard of ceramic from a capacitor might outlast the pyramids. We are not just building a future, we are constructing an archaeological record that is shockingly honest about our values, our obsessions, and our ultimate transience. We are the first species that can be excavated with a magnetometer as well as a trowel. The silence of the deep sea is not silence, it's a pressure. Oh, wait. It's the sound of 4 kilometers of water pressing down on you. A physical presence that fills every cavity, compresses every air sac in your body. Down there, in the abyssal plane, it's not about what you hear, it's about what you feel. The bioluminescent creatures that flash in the dark are not providing light for the sake of spectacle. They are sending signals in a medium where light is the rarest of currencies. It's a language of survival. A flash to lure prey, a counter flash to attract a mate. A sudden, blinding burst to startle a predator. It's a silent, visual Morse code in the eternal dark for a creature like the giant squid, living its entire life in this high-pressure, low-light environment. The world is not defined by sight or sound as we know it, but by tactile sense and by the perception of pressure waves in the water. The approach of a sperm whale. Its only natural predator is not seen or heard first, but felt. It's a disruption in the water, a massive, terrifying change in the hydrostatic pressure, the shadow of a god moving through the only home it has ever known. We, as surface dwellers, are obsessed with the electromagnetic spectrum, from radio waves to gamma rays. We build our science, our technology, our entire perception of reality on it. We are blinded by our own light. The creatures of the deep are running on different firmware. They perceive dimensions of reality that are utterly alien to us. They feel the geometry of the water column. They taste the chemical gradients from a hydrothermal vent miles away. They communicate in flashes of cold, lonely fire. Our deep-sea submersibles, with their bright arc lights and robotic claws, are violent intrusions into this world of subtlety and pressure. We are like toddlers crashing into a Zen garden, yelling and grabbing. We are so loud, and the residents of the abyss, who have known only the slow, patient rhythms of their world, regard this sudden, violent, light-spewing intrusion with what we can only interpret as terror. We came down here to discover, but all we have really done is announce our presence as cosmic thuds, deaf to the profound, silent, crushing music of the deep. There is a specific and peculiar type of sadness that can only be experienced in a supermarket at 2 a.m. The fluorescent lights hum with a relentless, artificial cheer, illuminating aisles that are painfully orderly. The floor is so clean it's reflective, a dark mirror showing a distorted, lonely version of yourself as you pass. The products on the shelves, boxed cereals promising a sunrise in a bowl, cans of soup that contain a winter's warmth, brightly colored laundry, detergents that vow to wash away your sins, are stacked with a geometric precision that feels both comforting and utterly psychotic. Each box, each can is a small vessel of promise, a tiny, manufactured prayer for a better life, and they are all arranged in perfectly straight lines, an army of hopeful artifacts waiting for a consumer who may never come. You are the only one here, the only human. The night staff, they are not fully present. They are ghosts in a machine. They price and they stack and they clean. Their movements slow and automatic. Their mind somewhere else. The other customers are not here. You are alone with the promises. And the promises are a lie, and you know it, and the building knows it too. The building knows that these brightly colored packages are just a temporary aggregation of atoms, soon to be broken down, their contents digested, their packaging relegated to a landfill where it will slowly, painfully decompose over centuries. The entire building is a temple to a temporary and flawed God, the God of satisfaction. The sadness comes from the sheer, heartbreaking gap between the promise and the reality, between the neatly ordered shelf and the chaotic mess of a human life. You look at a can of chicken noodle soup and you see your own childhood, your own mother's care, a specific and now lost moment in time. They can just seize aluminum and salt and process chicken parts. It is a cold, hard object. You are a warm, soft, suffering being. And in this sterile, humming, fluorescently cathedral of consumerism, the gap between the two feels as wide as the universe. You are not here to buy groceries. You are here to perform a ritual of mournful communion. You are here to feel the weight of your own loneliness. And you are here to witness the quiet, mechanical process of that loneliness too. And in the state of mutual awareness, the supermarket becomes a sacred space, and you become a part of its own slow, sad, and sacred story. Your own small, temporary contribution to its history, a short chapter on the history of grief and consumerism. The concept of garbage is a human invention. On a planetary scale, there is no way to throw things to. Everything stays. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is not an island of trash, a physical thing you can walk on. It's a soup, a thick, churning gyre of microplastics and chemical sludge. A new, man-made continental plate being formed in the heart of the ocean. It's a horrifying spectacle, but from a new materialist perspective, it's also just another geological process. The planet has seen asteroids smash into it. Volcanoes choke the atmosphere with ash, continents drift and collide. What is the humble plastic bottle, then, but a new type of sediment, a silicon-based life form that has arisen from the carbon-based one? It is, in its own way, a testament to the power of evolution. The plastic that is most biologically inert, most resistant to decomposition, is the plastic that survives. The bags that float are the ones that have the right buoyancy, the right shape to be carried by the currents. The plastics that sink become part of the sedimentary layer, a fossil record of our own brief, prolific age. The ocean's creatures are adapting. Barnacles are colonizing plastic debris. Small fish are eating microplastics, mistaking them for food. Algae is growing on floating nets. We are not just polluting the ocean, we are forcing it to evolve, to incorporate our industrial waste into its own biology. We are the designers of a new kind of biome, a biome of the Anthropocene. The horror is in the toxic consequences, the suffering of the animals, the disruption of the ecosystem. The dark, cosmic humor is in the sheer, stubborn creativity of life itself. Life finds a way. Life will find a way to live with plastic. It will incorporate it into the food chain, into the very chemistry of its cells. The future of life on Earth may be a half plastic, half biological hybrid, a strange, new form of existence that has learned to digest our own indifference. We were trying to create a world that was convenient for us. What we ended up creating is a world that will be fundamentally different and in some strange, new way, still alive. And when we are gone, when our own particular, noisy, and complicated chapter is over, the plastic will remain. A silent, colorful, and eternal monument to our own ingenuity and our own failure. A geological layer of pure, unadulterated, and deeply human-made nothingness. There's an urban folklore amongst delivery cyclists about a ghost bike that appears in the city's financial district just before sunrise. It's not a spectral, transparent bicycle, but a real, physical one that seems to exist outside of normal causality. It's a beat-up fixie, spray-painted matte black, with no discernible brand markings. Cyclists who see it say it's always in their peripheral vision, gliding soundlessly through intersections against the light, moving with a fluid, impossible grace. If you try to follow it, it's gone. Vanished around a corner that leads to a dead end. If you try to catch up, it maintains its distance no matter how fast you pedal. The story goes that it's the ghost of a courier who died, but that's too simple, too human a narrative. A new materialist lens suggests something else. The city as a complex system has its own logic, its own strange attractors. The flows of traffic, the patterns of light from the street lamps, the thermal drafts from the subway grates, the topography of the streets themselves. All of these create a kind of invisible geography. The ghost bike is not a ghost of a person, it's a ghost of a process. It's a physical manifestation of a fault line in the city's operating system, a glitch in the matrix of urban flow. It's the point where the algorithms of traffic control, the instinct of the couriers, and the physics of the bicycle frame all perfectly and momentarily align. It's a rogue wave of potential energy that coalesces into the shape of a bicycle. It appears for a fleeting moment, riding the precise, frictionless path that the city's hidden geographies dictate, and then it dissipates back into the chaos. The person who saw it, the courier who told the story, is simply the observer who happened to be in the right place to witness this fleeting, impossible event. They try to explain it with the only tools they have, the language of ghosts and spirits, because the language of systems, theory, and fluid dynamics is too cold, too abstract to capture the eerie beauty of the thing. The ghost bike is a perfect example of how our anthropomorphic gaze seeks to personify, to create a character out of a pure physical phenomenon. It's a story we tell to explain a brief, terrifying glimpse of the city's soulless, perfect, and utterly inhuman intelligence at work.
Go pee, maybe go pee, maybe go pee, maybe go pee. I forgot.
The single most overlooked act of rebellion is the act of decay. We are a species obsessed with permanence. We build with concrete and steel. We preserve our bodies with embalming fluid and refrigeration. We digitize our memories and store them in servers designed to withstand nuclear war. We are at war with entropy, but entropy always wins. It doesn't win through a final, cataclysmic battle. It wins through the slow, patient, relentless onslaught of the everyday. A rust stain on a bridge is a flag of surrender waved by I am. A crack in the pavement is the first sentence in a long story of disintegration. Mold on a piece of bread is a vibrant, beautiful colony of life feasting on our carefully prepared food. The very air we breathe is full of the dust of fallen empires, the microscopic remnants of our greatest, most permanent seeming creations. Decay is not an absence of life, it is life in its most fundamental form. It is the work of bacteria, of fungi, of insects, of chemical processes that care nothing for our aesthetic sensibilities or our desire for stasis. The act of letting things decay, of not immediately scrubbing away the rust, of not patching the crack, of not throwing out the moldy food, is an act of aligning oneself with the most powerful force in the universe. It's a quiet no to the frantic, endless human project of building and maintaining. It's a small prayer to the god of gravity and chemistry. The humor in it, of course, is that we try so hard. We coat everything in paint, in plastic, in preservatives. We are like children building sandcastles below the high tide line, frantically running back and forth with buckets of water, trying to keep the waves at bay. The tide always comes in, the castles always fall, and the most beautiful, most poignant, most honest sight is not the pristine castle, but the smooth, wet sand left behind after the wave has passed, a clean slate upon which a new, temporary story can be written. To appreciate decay is to appreciate the cycle. It's to find beauty not in the finished product, but in the rich, chaotic, and humbling process of everything returning to its base components. Consider the cockroach, not as a pest, but as a philosopher. Its genome is vast and ancient, a library of survival strategies honed over 300 million years. It has watched the continents drift. It has witnessed the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, a brief, noisy, and rather pompous experiment in gigantism from its perspective. It is a master of austerity, able to live for a month without food, a week without water. It could even live for a week without its head. The cockroach's entire philosophy is built around a profound and inarguable truth that the world is not made for you. You are made for the world, and your job is to figure out how to fit into its cracks and crevices. Its brain, distributed in a series of ganglia along its body, does not ruminate on the past or worry about the future. It processes only the immediate now. A chemical trail on the ground, a change in air pressure, the vibration of a footstep. It is as a master of present moment awareness. We, with our giant, energy intensive brains, are obsessed with abstractions. Justice, progress, love, legacy. The cockroach is concerned only with the practical: calories, shelter, reproduction. In a cosmic battle of wits, we see ourselves as the victors. We have invented tools they have not. We are the clever ones, but the cockroach is playing a much longer game. It is not trying to win, it is trying to endure. We are building our fragile, high-tech civilizations on the surface of a world that will, with geological indifference, shake us off like dust in 1,000,000 years or so. The cockroach and its kin will be there. It is not a triumph of their will, but a triumph of their simplicity. The humor is that we spend so much of our mental energy trying to be more than animals, to transcend our biology, that we have forgotten that the most successful strategy for long-term survival is to be a really, really good animal. The cockroach doesn't need to write a symphony to feel like it has a purpose. Its purpose is to seize its exoskeleton. It is a walking, scuttling, six-legged testament to the virtues of humility and adaptation. There is a particular psychological vertigo that comes from zooming in on the Earth in Google Maps. You start with the whole planet, a silent, swirling marble. You zoom in on a continent, then a country, a state, a city, a neighborhood. You keep going until you are looking at your own roof, your car parked in the driveway. You are a god looking down on your own life. Then you switch to street view, and suddenly you are there. The god's eye is gone, replaced by the jarring, grounded perspective of a humanish camera mounted on a car. The illusion is potent. You can virtually walk down your own street. You can see the crack in the pavement you tripped on last week, the graffiti on the dumpster that has since been painted over. You are a ghost in your own recent past, but there's something missing. The interface, with its clean lines and its navigational arrows, has scrubbed the world clean. It has removed the grit. You can't smell the exhaust fumes or the overflowing dumpster. You can't feel the sun on your skin or the chill of the wind. You can't hear the distant siren or the music from the open window of a passing car. You are seeing the world, but you are not experiencing it. You are looking at a high-fidelity photograph of the cake, but you can taste it. This is the tragedy of our increasing digital mediation. We are creating ever more perfect models of the world, but in doing so, we are further separating ourselves from the world itself. We are a species so obsessed with documenting reality that we are forgetting how to live in it. We are building a perfect, searchable, indexable simulacrum of the Earth, a digital ghost of the planet, and we are slowly starving on the real thing. We are like a person who is so busy writing a detailed cookbook that they forget to eat. The menu becomes more important than the meal. The single most honest object in your house is probably the drain in your shower. It is a mouth. It teethes. It consumes your shed skin cells, your trimmed hairs. The soap scum that is the ghost of your last act of cleaning. It doesn't judge. It doesn't care if you're clean or dirty when you step into the shower. It just processes the output. It is a direct, unflinching connection to the city's vast, hidden circulatory system of pipes, a humble node in a network that handles our collective, unmentionable waste. We spend so much time and energy crafting our public-facing selves, our carefully curated social media profiles, the persona we present to our friends and colleagues. We are actors in a play of our own making. But the drain knows the truth. It knows the grime of the body, the dirt from the soles of our feet, the biological reality that we try so desperately to hide beneath our clothes and our deodorants. It is the perfect, impartial audience. It doesn't applaud or boo. it just swallows. We think of dreams as a form of technology, a convenience, but in a way, they are a modern form of confession. We tell them everything without speaking a word, and the best part is they forget. They just pass the information along, a dissolved slurry of our unflattering reality into the great, anonymous maw of the sewer system. The dream is our therapist, our priest, and our janitor, all rolled into one plastic or metal grate. It is a constant, quiet reminder that beneath all our aspirations and anxieties, our art and our science, we are just another messy, biological process, shedding and consuming and excreting a temporary congregation of atoms in a constant state of flux. And in the daily, mundane ritual of washing ourselves and watching the waters whirl down that small, dark hole, there is a profound, almost religious acceptance of this fundamental truth. It is a small, daily surrender to the mechanics of being. Every city has a secret, unofficial sound. It's not the traffic or the sirens or the noise of the crowds. It's the hum. It's a low-frequency drone, usually below the threshold of conscious hearing, but it's always there. It's the sound of the transformers, the HVAC systems, the refrigeration units, the server farms, the subways. It's the sound of the city's metabolism, a constant, low-grade electrical and mechanical fever. You only notice it when it stops. A power outage in the middle of the night. The sudden, shocking silence is deafening. The absence of the hum is louder than the hum itself. It's the feeling of a giant machine going to sleep, of an organism holding its breath. In that silence, you start to hear other things. The wind whistling around the building, your own heartbeat, the tiny, frantic movements of a cockroach in the wall. The hum is our auditory filter. It's the background radiation of our artificial environment, and it drowns out the world. We build the world so full of our own noise that we have forgotten what the world sounds like without us. The hum is the sound of our species' partisan focus made manifest in vibrating air. It's the sound of our control systems, our life support, our digital appendages all running at once. Some people find it anxiety-inducing, a constant reminder of the artificiality of their surroundings. Others find it comforting, a sonic blanket that wards off the primal silence of the wilderness. It's the sound of safety, of civilization, of the wall we have built between ourselves and the untamed world. But it's also the sound of our prison, a low, electrical thrum that reminds us that we are dependent on this fragile, complex system. We are not living on the land, we are living inside the machine. And the hum is the sound of its engine, running 24/7, keeping the ghosts of the wild at bay. Think about the last time you lost something important. Not your keys or your phone, but something with emotional weight. A photograph, a letter from a loved one who is gone. A child's drawing. The feeling is not just a pragmatic frustration, it's a strange kind of grief. You are not mourning the loss of the physical object, the celluloid, the paper, the crayon wax. You are mourning the loss of a specific configuration of matter that held a unique and now unreproducible charge of memory and meaning. That photograph was not just an image, it was a physical anchor for a memory, a tangible link to a past moment. When it's gone, the memory doesn't disappear, but it feels less anchored. It becomes more of a ghost. The loss of the object is a small, personal death. The universe has lost a unique and temporary pattern. It's a brutal reminder of the second law of thermodynamics on an emotional level. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. A spilled glass of wine on a manuscript is not just a cleaning problem. It's an act of irreversible information loss. The unique sequence of words, the specific pattern of ink on paper, has been overwritten by a spreading purple stain. This is why we are obsessed with backups, with cloud storage, with duplication. We are desperately trying to fight entropy at the level of our own personal histories. We are trying to make our memories permanent, but memory itself is a process, not a thing. It is a river, not a lake. The attempt to freeze it into a permanent form, an object, a photograph, a digital file, is a beautiful and heartbreaking human folly. The grief of losing an object is the grief of realizing that the anchor was a delusion all along. The river keeps flowing. The only thing you can hold on to is the feeling of the water as it passes. There is a moment in many scientific documentaries, usually accompanied by soaring music, where the narrator describes the fragility of the Earth. Viewed from space, it's a pale blue dot, a delicate flower. This is one of the most successful and dangerous lies we tell ourselves. The Earth is not fragile. Life on Earth is fragile. Human civilization is fragile, but the planet itself is a robust, self-regulating, full, 5 billion-year-old rock that has shrugged off ice ages, roid impacts, and the oxidation of its own atmosphere. It is a tough old bird. It will be here long after we're gone, busily reconfiguring the mess we left behind into new and interesting forms of geology and biology. We are the fragile ones. We are the ones who exist in a ridiculously narrow window of temperature, air pressure, and chemical composition. We are the ones who are perched precariously on a thin crust, hurtling through a vacuum on a ball of molten iron. We mistake our own fragility for the planet's. The humor of it is breathtaking. It's like a flea on a dog's back worrying about the health of the dog. The dog's immune system, our species, might be causing a nasty infectious rash, but the dog will ultimately survive, perhaps by shedding its skin mass extinction or simply by waiting for the fleas to die off. We romanticize our own importance by framing our potential demise as a tragedy for the planet. It is not. It is a tragedy for us. The planet's only goal is to persist, to obey the laws of physics and chemistry. It has no vested interest in our form of consciousness, our art, our love. We are a lovely, colorful, and shockingly invasive bloom, but blooms fade. The Earth will continue its slow, silent, and utterly impartial dance long after our particular color has been washed from the canvas. We should not be fighting to save the planet. We should be fighting to save ourselves from the planet. It's a much more honest and a much more frightening proposition. The concept of cleanliness is a fundamental human fiction, a narrative we impose on a reality that is in a constant state of decomposition and recomposition. Your clean countertop is not actually clean. It is a thriving metropolis of bacteria, a microscopic ecosystem happily feeding on the microscopic remnants of your last meal. A sterile environment in a hospital is not a space devoid of life. It's a space where one type of life, human pathogens, has been temporarily and precariously supplanted by harsh chemical disinfectants, which are themselves just chemicals, products of the Earth's chemistry, enacting their own form of violence on other chemical structures. Our obsession with cleanliness is a war on the true nature of the universe, which is a messy, churning, undignified process of life feeding on life, of death feeding on life, of everything endlessly recycling. Dirt is not the opposite of clean. It is the baseline reality. The idea of purity is the real anomaly. A pristine, white, perfectly clean room is a lifeless desert, an artificial environment that requires a constant, energy-intensive battle to maintain. The real world is mold, rust, rot, and decay. It's a fallen log in a forest, teeming with 1,000 different forms of life in a slow, glorious festival of decomposition. It's a compost pile, a hot, steaming, chaotic celebration of death turning into new life. We are taught to be disgusted by this, to see it as unhygienic, but maybe the disgust is a reflection of our own fear. A fear of our own animal nature, our own inevitable return to the messy, chaotic, dirt-based reality from which we desperately try to separate ourselves. To truly embrace the world is to embrace the grit, the rot, the beautiful and essential uncleanliness of it all. It's to understand that we are not apart from this cycle, but central to it. We are not the lords of the clean castle, we are just another ingredient in the stew. And that's not a depressing thought. It's a liberating one. We talk about conquering space. This is the language of a species that still thinks it's 1,492. We talk about colonizing Mars as if it were an empty continent, a new world waiting for our manifest destiny. This is a profound failure of imagination rooted in our species' partisan focus. Mars is not an empty place. It's a world with its own history, its own geology, its own atmospheric chemistry, its own delicate and ancient systems. To arrive there and start digging, building, and off-gassing is not conquering it. It's a hostile takeover. It's the equivalent of a bulldozer arriving in an ancient cathedral and deciding to pave it over because it's empty. The real act of conquering space won't be a blueprint on a red, dusty world. It will be the moment we develop a new ethical framework, a new language of engagement that isn't rooted in colonial metaphors. It will be the moment we are able to visit another world with the respect and humility of a guest entering a sacred space, rather than the arrogance of a conquistador. The first Martian won't be a human in a spacesuit. It might be a carefully designed, sterilized probe that lands, takes its readings, and then leaves, having learned what it can without leaves a trace. It might be a terraforming project that takes millions of years, slow, patient, active ecological conversation, not a rapid act of industrial construction. Our desire to go there is an extension of our same old biological imperative: expand, consume, replicate. But maybe the next stage of evolution for a technological species is to learn how asterisk not asterisk to do that. Maybe the hallmark of true intelligence is the ability to admire a thing without feeling the need to possess it or change it. The race for space is a child's game. The adult game is to learn how to be a responsible citizen of the solar system. Everything you own has a supply chain. The cheap t-shirt is not just a piece of cotton. It's a story of pesticides and irrigation in a water-starved region. It's a story of underpaid labor in a factory in another country. It's a story of container ships burning low-grade fuel oil as they cross the Pacific. It's a story of warehouses, of trucks, of plastic packaging, of a retail store with its own vast energy consumption. Every object in your life is a node in a vast, global web of exploitation and combustion. It's a web that is almost entirely invisible to us as end users. We only see the final, clean, and well-lit product on the shelf. We don't see the ecological and human cost that went into its creation. This is the modern form of original sin. We are all, unwittingly or not, complicit in a system that is fundamentally unsustainable. We are all, in a small way, benefiting from the suffering of others and the slow degradation of the planet. To truly see the world through a new materialist lens is to trace these threads, to see the ghost of the oil well the light switch, to hear the silent cry of the sweatshop worker and the humming of the computer. This is not an exercise in guilt or in a performative, masochistic form of wokeness. It is an exercise in honesty. It's about seeing the true weight and history of the objects that surround us. It's about understanding that our simple, daily act of consumption is a violent and world-altering event. The humor is in the utter absurdity of it. We have built a global system of such Byzantine complexity that it is almost impossible for any single individual to live an ethical life within it. To truly extricate oneself from this web would require a level of asceticism and hermitude that is almost unthinkable. We are trapped. We are the happy, unwitting beneficiaries of a global, slow-motion catastrophe. And the most honest thing we can do is to simply acknowledge the fact, to feel the weight of that cheap t-shirt, and to understand that our comfort is built on a mountain of invisible costs. Your body is not a temple. It's a planet, a complex, biodiverse ecosystem that hosts a staggering number of other life forms. The bacteria in your gut outnumber your own human cells by a significant margin. They are not mere passengers. They are a crucial part of your physical and mental health. They influence your mood, your cravings, your immune system. You are a walking, talking, thinking rainforest of microbial life. You are less a single organism and more a symbiotic superorganism. The idea that you are just a collection of cells with your specific DNA is a quaint, pre-microscopic form of narcissism. You are the community, the whole ecosystem. The war on germs is a war on yourself. The overuse of antibiotics is like carpet bombing your own planet's rainforests, wiping out the good with the bad, and leading to a collapse of the interior ecosystem that can have long-term, devastating consequences. To eat a varied diet rich in fibers to tend your planet's soil, to provide nourishment for the beneficial flora that live within you. To mindlessly eat processed foods is to spread a pollutant that only the most hardy and opportunistic species can thrive in. You are a gardener, whether you know it or not. The mind-body connection is not some mystical concept. It's a literal, chemical conversation between your brain cells and the bacteria in your gut. They are manufacturing neurotransmitters that influence your thoughts and feelings. You are not just a brain in a vat, you are a brain in a sprawling, vibrant, and incredibly delicate microbial world. The ultimate act of self-care is not to pamper the skin on your face, but to cultivate a healthy inner soil, to be a good and responsible God to the trillions of creatures who call you home. Your body is not a machine to be finely tuned. It's a garden to be lovingly tended. We talk about virtual reality as if it's a new invention, but we have been living in a virtual reality our entire lives. Our consciousness is a virtual reality. It's a user interface created by our brains to simplify the chaotic, overwhelming, and mostly invisible reality of the universe. We don't see photons, we see colors. We don't feel vibrations in the air, we hear sounds. We don't perceive the raw, meaningless data stream of the cosmos. We perceive objects, people, and stories. These are all helpful fictions, a user-friendly dashboard that allows us to navigate the world without being overwhelmed by the raw physics. Every living creature has its own virtual reality, its own user interface, tailored to its ecological niche. A bee's reality is a world of ultraviolet patterns on flowers that we can't see. A bat's reality is a world of sonic echoes that we can't hear. A dog's reality is a world of smells and pheromonal messages that are far richer than our own. There is no one true reality. There are only different user interfaces. The genius of the human brain is that our virtual reality is programmable. We can learn to see in new ways. A physicist can learn to see the hidden symmetries in the motion of a planet. A musician can learn to see the harmonic relationships between notes. The artist can learn to see the subtle play of light and shadow that others miss. The great mistake is to believe that our own user interface is the real one. The great tragedy is that we've built a digital virtual reality, video games, the metaverse, social media. That is a pale, simplistic imitation of the much richer and more profound virtual reality that our brains are already running. We are creating a copy of a copy. The next stage of human evolution is not to build a better digital VR, it's to develop new plugins for our own consciousness, to learn to access and appreciate the many other equally valid virtual realities that are all around us all the time. It's to realize that the user interface can be updated.
I'm back in a bit with an acting intensive.